All right, sure enough, I'm showing 331. So let's go ahead and kick things off. My name is Law Loving. I am the Director of Career and Workforce Readiness at the Niswonger Foundation. I wear several hats. Some of you may know me from those other hats, but in case you don't, and for the purposes of STEM.LD, I'm going to be the workforce coordinator. So I'll be helping along with some of the other Niswonger Foundation folks that you can see on the call here. You may see some names you recognize. I am going to give them a chance to introduce themselves as we go throughout the presentation. Fortunately for you, you will not be hearing just from me, so we'll be kicking it around to more than one voice here. But I am very excited, again, that all of you could join us today, and really excited to tell you a little bit about STEM.LD, some of the details that we know, and maybe some areas where we're excited for you to start participating. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it and start off by just telling you kind of the overview here. So STEM.LD at its core is a research grant. It's part of the EIR grant program. It's a federal level research grant. So what that means is that every activity that we do throughout the grant really needs to be focused around evaluating. This is not just a grant where we want to bring in some new programs or try some new projects out and see how they go. We do want to do those things, but we want to make sure that we're evaluating them in a pretty rigorous fashion. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that looks like. This is not the first EIR grant that the foundation has won. Some of you may be familiar with the foundation's Rural Life grant that we won. I think it's 3 years ago now. So this will be the second one of these that we participated in. We have some familiarity with them, but obviously STEM.LD is its own animal, so we're excited about the new pieces of that. The core idea behind it is that we want to really shift STEM culture across the region in our middle schools and high schools. There's a few ways we hope we can do that. But that's the main idea, is that we want to take those science, technology, engineering, and math pieces and move them in a positive direction. The LD in STEM.LD stands for learning design. So we're hoping to shift things via the design of this project. A couple of other key notes here. So it's an $8.8 million grant. That's $8 million of federal and $800,000 of local match over the next 5 years. So it is a little bit of a long-term thing. It is STEM focused, obviously, and as I said, it's for middle school and high school, so grades 6 through 12. We do expect that STEM staff will get to participate, as well as all of the students in the region. That's one of the cool things about the way we've designed this, is we think that this can have an impact for really every student across the board. So here's a quick look at our geographic reach. You'll notice that this is many of the counties that we typically work with. The Niswonger consortium counties are certainly here. We've also got some folks that are right on the fringes or the border of that. We're excited to have Claiborne County involved with this grant, as well as Jefferson and Sevier counties, who have done some work with us on some of the other grants as well. But this is definitely a strong group of folks, and we're really excited to be able to continue to work with each of you on there. So that's a quick look at that. And now I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Vicki Kirk, and she can introduce herself and then start telling you about some of the research design pieces.
Thanks, Law. I am Vicki Kirk, and I'm pleased to be here this afternoon. Good afternoon. I spent many happy years working in Greenville and Greene County. Spent a little bit of time in Nashville, and now I'm the superintendent at the Tennessee School for the Deaf. I will retire in June, and in July will become full-time with the Niswonger Foundation, working on this grant with curriculum and the PD. I'm very excited about the grant. I'm excited as a former science teacher because of the opportunities we're going to be able to offer to STEM teachers across the region. Just really fabulous learning opportunities, rich and important learning opportunities. I'm excited as a former school system leader that we'll be able to provide strong opportunities for our students that are equitable. We all know that it's hard if you're a small rural school to offer all of those varied opportunities. And Niswonger Foundation has done a great job at that for the last 10 years. And so we'll be doing that with this grant as well. And I'm excited as a member of the community because STEM graduates are good for a community. So this is going to be a good grant all the way around. We're very excited about it. You see that there are 3 levels to the grant on this slide: teacher professional development, out of school time activities for students, and then the advanced STEM courses for students. As Law mentioned, this is a research grant. There will be research metrics And you see what some of the things we'll be measuring there. The middle school part of the grant will be an experimental research. So we will ask you to submit your middle schools that are going to participate. They will be randomized. The experimental group will start immediately with the treatment. The control group will get to participate. They'll just have to wait a couple of years, and that way we can compare the results there. For high schools, all the ones that want to participate will be able to participate from the get-go. We'll be comparing them to other high schools across the state. So it's a quasi-experimental part of the grant. And that's in a nutshell how the grant's going to work, the experimental nature of the grant. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about professional development. I believe that an investment in people is never wasted. It's the best investment you can make. And this grant certainly does that. It offers great investment in STEM teachers across the region. They're going to have very rich opportunities to learn. We are going to have 2 phases of learning. Phase 1 is going to be offered by TNTP. And we have Stephen on the call today. So if you have specific questions about that, we may kick it over to him later on. But TNTP will be providing about 2 days of training in the beginning in July based on the opportunity myth. And so this is going to be focused on holding high expectations for students and teaching at grade level standards. It applies broadly. It's not content or subject specific, so all the teachers can participate. All treatment group STEM teachers and administrators will be expected to participate. This is an important foundational part of the training. The training will be virtual, so partly synchronous, partly asynchronous, and we're working out the balance there, and we're finalizing those things now. Phase 2 will be more subject specific for teachers. There will be some that are more appropriate for high school teachers and some that are more appropriate for middle school. We will be offering a standards-based training for middle school teachers to help them understand how to teach the standards in the way that they were intended to be taught. And that can prove to be very exciting for teachers, I believe. Phase 2 will have more choice involved, so teachers have more options with phase 2. They can focus on certain areas, and as school and system administrators, you may want to work together with them to determine what direction your school or your district's going to go with those. You can take some this year that are in one area and some the next year in another area, and when you see the partners, I think you're going to be excited to know what's going to be offered, and that is coming up with the law. But next he's going to talk about out of school opportunities.
Okay, and I should have mentioned at the beginning, some of you may have attended our webinar back in February that covered much of the same information that we're covering today. I see a lot of new names as well, and I will point out that there are a couple of new pieces of information. We'll try to highlight those as we go through. As Vicki was just talking about, the idea of having that phase 1 PD be synchronous or asynchronous is one of those new pieces. So we are excited about that. And I think, let's see. Yep, looks like Stephen Lefamina said hello to everybody in the chat, so you can see him there. He is on the call today. Good deal. I thought that was you, Stephen, when it popped up there. So one of the things that makes STEM.LD kind of unique and sort of the second phase of activities is the out of school time activities portion. This is not something that is that we know of as being evaluated in other similar type research grants. So that is certainly a unique piece. It's also a challenging piece, of course. But we anticipate that these will look like some of the following, and there may be some things on this list that we don't see. But certainly traditional after-school clubs. We definitely think that there will be some things like some weekend activities and some more intensive summer camps. We do know that in the last year, we've certainly learned that more and more things can be done virtual, even if they're not the ideal scenario. So we do expect to utilize some of those pieces, especially since some of our partners are not local, but are national or regional partners. So it makes it a little easier for them to lead some OST things if they can do it virtually. And again, I mean, there may be things that are not on this list that we choose to do down the line. We do want this grant to be very responsive to demand. So if there are subjects or world events or things that that push us in a certain direction, we want to be able to shift towards those things, and that the OST portion of this is certainly responsive in that sense. We do expect that some of our partners will be leading some of these activities, and we've got some of that written out into the actual grant proposal. There is room for growth there. There are opportunities for school staff to help lead some of these OST things. There are opportunities for them to possibly create their own OST things. At the same time, we know that school staff is limited, so they can't do everything we certainly wouldn't want them to do. So we are planning to call on local STEM champions from each community. So that's another unique piece of the grant, something that's a little different. We would really like to find those folks that are out working in STEM professions in each community. Maybe they're retired, maybe they are actively working in an engineering or medical field or some other STEM format. But we would love to see those folks being a connection point to these OST activities, so that they're sort of a sounding board and somebody that can help communicate and promote these opportunities. They also may be leading some of these opportunities as well as they have interest. So that's something that we'll actually be calling on the folks in each community to help us figure out who that champion should be. And we may be asking you for some help with that down the line. So stay tuned on that one. I'm going to kick it back over to Vicki and let her talk about the advanced coursework.
Advanced coursework. So as I said before, the Niswonger Foundation has 10 years in this field. They've been offering strong coursework for high schools for 10 years, and we're going to build on that strong foundation with this grant. We want to provide equity across the region. We know that smaller high schools in particular struggle to offer lots of STEM offerings just because of certifications of teachers or because of the number of students that you have that could make a class. So this will be a grand opportunity for us to offer some very interesting high-level STEM coursework for high school students. We also want to focus on Algebra 1 at middle school. We want to have a focus that 8th graders will have the opportunity to take Algebra 1. And so we will strive to assist schools to certify teachers at the middle school level who could teach Algebra 1. And if that's not a possibility, then there will be some online opportunities in that area as well. You can see on the right here some of the ideas that we have: cybersecurity, epidemiology, aerospace engineering. So it's very exciting, and I think it will be motivating for students to be able to dip their toe in these areas before they get to college. Next slide.
All right. So we've been teasing some of our partners here, and so here's the grand reveal, sort of. These are folks that we anticipate are going to be part of the project and have been written in as part of the project by and large. There may be other partners down the line, so this is by no means an exhaustive list, but these are certainly some major players that we expect to be doing different things. This is not the world's greatest Venn diagram, so I apologize for that. But let me just sort of hash it out here for you and say the partners that are in the middle there that are under OST activities, they will also be participating in professional development and in advanced coursework. So we do expect that they'll be doing those pieces as well. The folks that are in the wings in professional development and in advanced courses, they are most likely to just focus on those particular applications. So we've mentioned TNTP at this point. They'll be leading some professional development for us, particularly around phase 1, but they will also likely have a phase 2 professional development piece. Vicki will be leading some Niswonger professional development as well. So we expect there to be some opportunities just in-house to be able to do some of that. As far as the folks in the middle there, that will be helping with the out of school time activities and the professional development and advanced coursework. We have the University of Alabama in Huntsville that will be our cybersecurity partner. So they've got some great programs around cybersecurity. If I Had a Hammer is a group out of Middle Tennessee, and they're heavily into hands-on math for middle school and for high school. But they have some really neat hands-on pieces. You may have seen them at a Niswonger symposium a couple of years back. So they came and their CEO and president came and presented on kind of how they teach math in a very unique way. We've got the folks from ETSU helping us with some of the advanced coursework. There's the opportunity for them to maybe lead some OST activities and certainly do some professional development. Their structure is very responsive, so epidemiology will be led by them, and you have to do is crack a newspaper sometime in the last 12 months to see why epidemiology might be relevant, but we'll be utilizing them as well for some computer science and statistics and GIS pieces. StreamWorks is another local partner. They do a lot in the robotics and engineering space and have active camps right now already, and so this will be a chance for them to expand some of what they're doing. BioBuilder is a group out of MIT. It's a spun-off group from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and they do a lot of work around synthetic biology. They also already have some local presence, but this will again be a chance for them to build out some of what they're doing around in-class coursework, as well as some of their out-of-school time pieces. Purdue University is a partner that there's still some details to be written in, but we expect that they'll be helping quite a bit with professional development. They do have a strong reputation in the engineering field, so we expect that they'll be helping some with some of their engineering, pre-engineering, design technology type applications. And then Civil Air Patrol has a strong track record with aerospace and aerospace engineering, aerospace education, and so they'll be leading some activities around that field. And there may be other fields again that we choose to add. We will be relying on our local partners in addition to ETSU, Walter State, and Northeast State to help with some of the advanced coursework, or especially around dual enrollment and dual credit pieces. And then lastly, I'll just call it at the bottom, our evaluator on this grant is ANLAR. We've got a great working relationship with them. They've helped out on our previous federal grants. So that makes us feel very comfortable about our research design and making sure that we're collecting the data we need and getting the questions that we needed to be answered. So so that's our partners. That's a quick look at them. I'll talk just briefly about the school selection process. Vicki really did a good job of touching on it earlier. They're essentially two separate groups. So while we may have middle school and high school folks on the call, as far as the research is concerned, the middle school group will be a randomized control trial. We'll take all the middle schools in the geographic region I showed you that want to participate, and we will do a randomization. That's actually coming up very quickly, and we'll show you that timeline, but that could be it should be as soon as next month that we do that. At that point, half of the schools roughly will be in the treatment group, and we'll begin the STEM.LD programming immediately, or really over the summer into the fall. The other half will jump into the control group, and they will have the opportunity to participate in all the pieces of the grant starting in the third year of the grant, which would be 2023, that fall there. So that'll give us 2 years of comparison data. That randomization event will be streamed. So we've done similar type processes in the past, and it's some folks enjoy just checking that out, making sure that everything's above board, and it's just kind of a fun process to see, who ends up in which pool. For high school purposes, if you're a high school and you want to participate, you're in. As Vicki said, we will match you with a school across the state, kind of behind the scenes. It'll be a blinded thing. You won't even know who you're matched with, but that'll be done based on demographics and school size and that sort of thing. And that allows us to instead of doing like we have to do with the middle school group, that allows us to do the start where everyone can begin from the beginning. We do plan to be very sensitive to personally identifying information. We won't be using any student level data, individual students. We'll be aggregating everything, and that should help with that process. So everything will be at the school and district level and above.
And so speaking of data collection, and Law said we're working with ANLAR, and they're doing their homework. So most of the data that we will be collecting can be accessed at the state level. We are working very hard not to ask you to participate in too much data collection or data provision. We don't want to burden you with that. So most of the data we collect will be readily available to us. It will also be de-identified, so we won't be identifying schools or districts in our reporting. We're looking to see what works and what doesn't work in this experimental design, and so that's the purpose of the data collection. You see here some examples of the data we plan to use. Achievement data that's available, the climate survey data is available. We will be keeping up with participation rates for PD and duration. We'll probably do some satisfaction surveys and maybe some pre and post testing, depending on the kind of PD that we are providing. We want to keep up with how many students are participating in the activities out of school time and how many are repeating, coming back and participating on a regular basis. And then we'll look at scheduling, what kind of courses are being provided, how many kids are taking more advanced level courses or algebra at 8th grade and that sort of thing. So that is the skinny on data collection. Finally, for me, I want to talk about participation. Because this is an experimental design, we really need some power in the data collection and in our numbers. So that means we're going to need high participation among those who raise their hand to be a part of the grant. Our expectation for treatment schools is that we'll have 100% participation in phase 1 PD. So that's the 2 days or thereabouts in July, the virtual, some synchronous, some asynchronous. And so it'll be available to people in a way that is convenient, I think. And if we can plan ahead, that will be most helpful. But we really are going to strive to have 100% of our STEM teachers that are in the treatment groups, both high school and middle school, participate in this phase 1 training. And that includes math teachers, science teachers, and STEM CTE teachers. We also would like to have principals and other administrators participate, because we know that makes a difference in how things go at the school if the leadership understands what's happening and can support it appropriately. And then in phase 2, it is our goal to have 80% or more of the teachers participate in a phase 2 professional learning. We don't think that's going to be a challenge, because they're going to be really engaging and good opportunities for teachers. We think they'll be very keen to participate. It will help us if, as a district and a school, you plan to support us by saying these opportunities can count for their PD that's required throughout the year. That's going to be a tremendous support for us if you will do that. So speaking of support, we have commitment that we will ask for, and the commitment form is being shared in the chat. It will also be emailed to you with a follow-up email to this presentation. So outside of the participation commitments, there's going to be very little asked of you. We would appreciate some support with the out of school time activities, perhaps in providing a place for the groups to meet, or of course in supporting it with kids and encouraging them to participate in the activities. And that kind of is in a nutshell what we're asking you to do to participate in the grant. Now it's Richard with the timeline.
Hello, everyone. Richard Kitzmiller. I am currently Vice President of the Foundation. And before that, I was for several years, half of my career, I was a middle school math teacher. I was a district level administrator, including a superintendent, before I retired. So this will be my 3rd federal grant that I've worked on. And it's the first one that gets to completely center around STEM activities. So it's a good project to have to look forward to. If you will look at our timeline, you will notice at the bottom left, it mentions today's webinar. It says it's a follow-up. As Lau said earlier, we had our first introduction geared primarily for the central office representatives on February 16th. We're having today geared primarily for principals and others invited on the 9th. There will be a similar, almost identical content on the 18th. So if you're here today, unless you just want to, you don't need to come back on the 18th. Then on the 30th, we'll have our final webinar, including a presentation by TNTP about their professional development. We'll have more information, and part of the information that we will gather will be generated from questions and suggestions that you make in just a few minutes. So we have added some new information in today's introductory webinar, and we do have 2 more coming, and hope that you would keep those in mind. And by the 30th, you may even want to invite some teachers that would be involved. So it may be department chairs or just interested folks that maybe even volunteers that may be community members. So we'll have a big net for the 30th, and we'll try to answer any question we possibly have in anticipation of a school commitment on April 5th. As we've mentioned in the chat, there is a link to the commitment form. The principal will fill that out on behalf of the school. We're not expecting you to do that today. If you want to, that's great. We'll have other opportunities by email, and shortly after the 30th, we'll have another one. But by the 5th, we hope to know which schools are selecting, are self-selecting to be in the project, and which ones are opting out. We're hoping to get a great representation of schools. And then on April 8th, we will do a randomization of the middle school group. So the middle schools will know if they're selected for current treatment or treatment 2 years down the road. We will have the phase 1 professional development in July. Again, more details on the 30th of March, but we will we hope to have that in July, and then periodically throughout the grant, as new people are hired and as new schools come on board, we will have that offered again. But once we have the phase 1 entry into the project, then we will be able to start the phase 2 activities in the fall, and we'll be able to start out of school time activities, and even some of the senior level, junior and senior level advanced coursework could start as early as this fall. We will not expect all of the out of school time activities to be fully developed by this fall, nor all the phase 2 professional development, but we will let you know by the fall what the calendar and what a range of options could possibly be. So this is the timeline. The phase 2 would continue for 4 years if you're a high school, potentially 4 years if you're a high school, and certainly for 2 years before we bring on the second group of middle schools in the year 2023. So that's our timeline as we anticipate it. And next slide, please. We have our contact information. You have heard from me, Richard Kitzmiller. You've heard from Dr. Kirk, and you've heard from Lyle Loving. You haven't heard, but you may know them from other places. Brittany Siebert and John Payne are local residents and active in our other federal grant at the moment. And so we will have this year. You can watch it on the recording. If you don't expect you to write all these down, but it'll be in the recording. If you need to contact Lyle or any of us, you have our contact information here. And so now we would like to stop. When we do have a pretty large number of participants, that's great to hear, but we think it's manageable. If you would unmute yourself and ask any questions you have, or make any suggestions that you have, or just ask for some clarification. If you would rather, you can type your question in the chat, but we'd like to open this up now for any suggestions, questions from any of our participants.
I have a question around the Algebra 1 in the middle school. Is that a requirement of participation in the program? We've moved in a different direction on that recently, and I don't know that we want to undo the direction we've gone in.
Thank you for the clarifying question. No, it is not a requirement. We are offering it as a suggestion for a way for the most capable students to be able to reach advanced placement, for instance, in math, or science to give them a better preparation. It could be, however, that a given school has another option that gets them there to the same level. So our stance is, if resources or the school size is driving that decision, we would like to support your decision to let some students that are capable start that more rigorous pathway in middle school. If the school decides not to, though, that they can get to the rigorous activities through their existing pathway, we will certainly work with you. It is not an expectation or requirement.
Related to the advanced coursework that would be released in the fall, is that for registering for the following school year to begin versus starting in school year 21-22?
We will hope on our March 30th to announce what some possibilities for the 21-22 school year would be. We know though that your capable students will already have made their course selections. So it is not a push that we will feel disappointed if only a handful sign up. We would then hope to get it in a normal routine for the 22-23 school year of registration. But there will be some students. There are, in our online courses, there are juniors and seniors that register right up until August the 1st or something for advanced courses. So there will be some students who avail themselves of the advanced courses in 21-22, but we recognize that we're out of sync with the registration process. So it will not be a major push, but it will be, there will be opportunities for students if it makes sense for them and their school program. And while we're on the advanced coursework, we will try to have worked out all the things that we need to know in terms of course codes and be able to tell students where this course would be, where the college credit, if it's a dual enrollment, where would be the issuing higher ed institution and what would be the transfer credit. So we will try to have as much information as we can by March 30th. We'll have maybe a little bit more for the students to consider in the spring, but knowing that the full-fledged participation in the upper courses won't happen until later years.
Last question for me, related to the after-school activities. Are those clubs and activities already determined, or is that something that would support existing programs, or you bring something new into the schools?
We are certainly open to supporting existing schools and existing clubs. We could add a range of activities and maybe help with some resources that just don't exist already. So it could be that we will enhance an existing club. But our focus is on rural education, and so we know that as you get further away from city school systems, they will not be as likely to have the full range of clubs, and so we anticipate that there will be the startup, the initiation of new after-school clubs. But also, and I know you didn't misspeak, but I'm reminding everyone else that it is not just after-school clubs. There will be weekend activities that are community-oriented. Kids from 3 or 4 districts could come to activities that are independent of the school. So we will have school-based clubs, school-based events. We'll also have community-based events and even virtual events that we will publicize. And it could be that an individual student from 5 different schools might be participating in a virtual event with no support from the school. So we're trying to flesh out what happens in the school with quality curriculum, quality professional development, what happens after school, weekends, summers, virtually with a range of out-of-school time activities.
Thank you.
And those out-of-school activities, we do have some of them identified now, but there will be more, and probably from partners we haven't even met yet. as we move into later years. There will be new opportunities for out-of-school time activities to generate from the community. It is our hope that they do. If they become part of the ecosystem, then once the grant is over, those same community groups and the same interest can be in place, and we can leave and affect the STEM culture for a number of years. Thank you for those questions. Other questions, comments?
Does the in-classroom curriculum, is that what would be shared at the professional development this summer with the STEM teachers? And is that curriculum tied to the existing standards, or is it more supplemental?
The phase 1 professional development this summer will be a general nature in terms of high expectations. It will not be subject specific or standard specific. It will be based on the well-known report, the opportunity myth, and it will be a generalized challenge illustrated with some curriculum examples, but it will not be standards oriented. The standards oriented work will come in the phase 2 professional development. Bio builders may be working with biology teachers. Dr. Kirk may be working with middle school science teachers. We will have professional development for CTE STEM teachers that are subject specific. So the subject specific will not start this summer. It will start during the school year of 21-22.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this will be last call for any more questions. If you want to throw something in the chat, this will be the time. I think it was mentioned that the form link is in the chat for everyone. So the commitment form, feel free to access that. Take it back to your STEM teachers, the other staff members, the other stakeholders. Walk through it with them and make sure that everybody's on the same page. If you do think you want to be a part of STEM.LD, keep in mind those deadlines are coming up quickly. Keep in mind we have other webinars coming up. I will be the contact person listed on that commitment form. However, we did post everyone's information there. So if you need to reach out to anybody else on the call from the Niswonger Foundation, you can easily do that. And we did adjust the timeline based on feedback from the first call there. I see that in the chat. Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to be responsive early on here to the feedback. So if you do have feedback and other pieces, by all means, let us know, and we'll do what we can to incorporate it. But if I don't see any more questions, then I will just say thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to working with you on STEM.LD.